Hello, everybody. Grant Hunter here with another Product Growth Leaders topic of the week. Our friends at Forrester with Product Board just released a great paper on the business impact of investing in product management. Really good research, really good data. I highly recommend doing it. It was sponsored by Product Board. And one of the key takeaways they had was that organizations are not sufficiently investing in their product management organizations. So, I like to take relevant current things and use that to drive my topics for topic of the week. So I thought we should talk about investing in product management. This is something that I have never heard a product leader tell me they have even close to enough money to invest in what they want to do, whether it's training, whether it's tools and software, whether it's even just investing in travel and budget to have people go out and do the market insight. So I wanted to sort of take this time to look at investing in product management. And so on Monday, we put this question in the community. What is the business case for investing in product management? And where would you focus your investment in 2023? And so let's start. I want to dig in. We got a great panel here. We got Eva Beasley, May Wong, Cory Bryan, and we're going to dig into this concept of making the business case for investing in product management. Where would people focus it? Where can we get the most value for our investment? And we even are going to get to do a live poll this week because, of course, Grant didn't get a chance to put the poll up midweek. So we'll do a live one here, and it's going to go live in the community after that. So May, you came out quick right out of it, right? You probably could do nothing with it and be okay, but after a while, you're going to need to invest in it. So talk to me about where your head is and about making the business case. And also, where would you think you would focus your investment in 2023?
So in terms of investing, I always think about it more from a corporate level, like how much money should we invest in product? And I feel like in order to answer that question, you need to dig a little deeper into what product management is and why does it exist. I feel like that topic has fallen off the popularity train for some time now because everyone just assumes we all know what product management is. And when we talk about it, we all have this certain level of assumption. So I kind of went back to first principles and say like, well, if you have an existing product, it's going to be fine on its own. Probably for a little bit
Until it's not.
Until it's not, right? So the purpose of, before you even get to product management, if you want to improve your product, well, that's generally considered development. You might need design, you might need like retooling if it's a physical hardware or physical product. But in order to make sure you're going to build the right thing next, that's where product management comes in. So it's about what you're going to invest in next and making sure that investment is sound and has the right motivations behind it and has, well, really just a proper, risk assessment, research, ways to test out those hypotheses. So that in a nutshell is product management. So what is that value to you in your company?
Where is the value in that? Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And so I think that is a question that organizational leaders need to ask themselves. What is product management and why is it important in your context, right? Because it changes drastically. How much you end up investing will also change drastically, but that's also relevant to like the cost of actual development. Like, are you retooling an entire factory? There are huge questions around that, and it changes, and that's okay. In terms of investment, again, very contextual, but I would personally recommend investing in product ops for obvious reasons. But really, like, think about the context behind not just the decision making, but how do you get to those decisions, right? Is that flow smooth from ideation through to production, deployment, operations, everything that underlies the structure behind all of these decisions and all of your workflows? Does it make sense?
No, it makes a ton of sense. And there's a couple things I want to pull out of there. One, I have to get my Drucker in early. Peter Drucker said that if you can't do product development, you're not going to grow, right? Product development is the key to grow. To your point, once you have one product out there, it may live its life cycle, it may grow, but eventually it's going to plateau, it's going to mature, it's going to have that type of stuff. So if you cannot do the product development work, and then it comes to product management, right? Or there was me and my research. There's a research study done in like the 50s that talked about market development versus product development and how you really need to understand the market. And I'd say that product management is almost on the market development side, understanding markets where you can build new things and what the problems are versus product development. And there's a severe, even back then, there was a severe underinvestment in market development compared to product development, was what the research had shown. Actually, Steve is somebody who got that research to me a long time ago. So that takes you to this, are we still back at this place that we still need to do a better job of defining what product management is part of the problem, that people don't know and don't get it. They're told. And I, about 5-6 years ago, now I'm even thinking it's longer than that, because God, the time goes fast. I decided to do an experiment. I applied to every VP of product job in the Philadelphia area at startups. And when I got called, and I said, actually, I'm not interested in the job. I want to know why you're hiring for this role. And the number one reason why startups were hiring for a VP of product, anybody can guess what it was?
Their investors demanded it.
Their investors demanded it. They did not need it. They did not have a need. They weren't big enough for a VP of product, but they were told they needed it by their VCs. And I think it's more of a check the box. We talk about outputs versus outcomes, and all those jobs were check the box outcomes or outputs, right? We need a VP of product, so we hire a VP of product. And I think that until we get this, too often we're hearing people say, you need product management, without telling people what the value is. What do they need product management for?
Yeah. So you need a VP of product. And then the next question is, to do what?
Yeah. And people would ask, so they say, well, what do you think we should do? I said, are you going to have a team of people who are working with this person? Are they going to build an organization? Oh, no, we just have like one headcount. Like, your first product manager shouldn't be a VP of product. You should hire a product manager who can be the consigliere for the CEO or co-founder, whoever is that vision strategy person, who can sort of start the day-to-day of it. If you want to replace them, maybe make it a director of product. But, it just was an interesting way of looking at it. So and maybe we need to take a little more time on this defining the product management. Paul Atala, I got to call him and get him back on the call. He said that personally he would invest in product growth, sort of the go-to-market, the product marketing and that type of stuff. He thinks that that's where it's going to be. Cory, you talked about the business case for investing. Maybe it's just about how much you care about your product and who should be doing that as their job. So it almost gets back into what we were just talking about, right?
It is. And it's very similar to what May said, which is, at some point, I mean, there's companies that there's companies that operate without either product managers, product people, or product leaders, and they do fine.
They do product management. They do, somebody's doing it.
Somebody's doing it, right? Somebody's making decisions based on what we should do next in the product. Fundamentally, sometimes that's the CEO, sometimes it's the sales guys, sometimes it's, whoever. It would be great, from my point of view, in my opinion, if that was a product leader who was empowered to make those types of changes and decisions and lead the organization that way, because they know the business model, they know the customers, and they know how to prioritize and get stuff done. That would be ideal. That's what I'd like to do. I think that's what most product people would like to do, is to be empowered to make those types of decisions for the business and for their users. Somebody's going to do that at some point, even if it's the developers who making, changes and decisions based on what they think, because they haven't been told what to do or whatever. They're going to make these decisions. Somebody's going to design this. In other words, you should pick who you want to do that. And depending on who you pick will depend on how much, in my mind, good product practices are done. The investing side of that equation, I love the product growth side. I like that. I like getting more data. I like getting more information and things like that. I really want to know how our customers are going to use our product. So I would invest in more behavioral studies. I would use that data that we're gathering to understand what are people coming to us for? Why are they buying us? What are they using us for? What do they hope to get done by using our product? And how easy is it to do that? Something I'm having a lot of conversations this week is friction. How long does it take to go from I discover your product to I get value with your product? If that takes a week because I've got to schedule a call with a demo and got to get an account sign up and be trained to do things versus I can start using it in 5 minutes. That's a big difference. And I'd much rather have the case where somebody could find us and start using us within 5 minutes than the other case. And to do that, I have to present and our product has to show value really quickly, and it has to be super easy and frictionless to get there.
Completely. And what makes me think that there's almost a continuum, right? Where some of the investment at some point is getting the right people in the seats, making sure you have the right team. Some of it's making sure you're investing in the right activities. We're going out, and some of it's in how do you keep advancing that practice, and whether it's new software and tools or workshops and investment, sharpening saws, that type of stuff. Awesome. Thank you, Cory. Eva, I'd love to get your take on this. I mean, you come from a different lens. You know, you're relatively new to the product management side. You've done a lot of investing on your own in improving your skills. But as you look at it, let's take the lens at the sort of at the corporate level. You know, where do you see that the case for investing? Where, from what you've seen at least?
I think, yeah, being in product for only a little bit over a year, I think the big issue that I see is corporations, especially now with hiring freezes and layoffs, aren't investing in their people. They're wanting you to get up to speed quickly, but it's on you to find these resources and pay for these resources outside the company to really be coached and mentored through some of the more difficult items. So I think the stronger your product people are, the better your product may do in the future based on, you know, discussions about roadmaps and things like that. So I don't know, it's a bit difficult though, because like I said, I've always had to be like able to sink or swim, and I'm just kind of keeping my head above the water, trying to invest in myself financially. But I really wish a company would invest in me to help me pursue that mentoring outside. And I know I didn't answer the question because I was afraid I was going to muddle up my response.
You answered it fine for me. Actually, I think it's interesting to start looking at this, right? There is this ability to, you know, there's a dichotomy I see right now where there's, with what's going on in the industry right now, there's a lot of product managers been laid off. There's people losing jobs, yet it's people are having a hard time keeping their people at the same time. And there's almost this dichotomy. We have talked to some of our clients, Steve and I, who are saying that they're actually looking at investing in training and coaching and mentoring for their teams purely as a retention metric or a retention tool to retain the product manager, at least the good people. I think it was Henry Ford that said something like, you'd want, better to invest in people and have them leave than to not invest in people and have them stay. Right. And I think that there is and maybe this goes to capitalism itself, right? There is still this imbalance in where the investment goes, because Cory's giving me his face. I now got the Cory face in, that we're still, I don't think, value especially the knowledge worker, where we're doing a lot of stuff in product management, who I think has a outsized impact for our role, right? We are a leverage point. We help people carry more, what we're pulleys or levers or whatever. We can help people, the organization, carry a bigger weight than they could without us. My take of where it is. And I think they need to invest in it. If they're asking you to invest, it's expensive to invest yourself. Now, the good news is there's plenty of people on LinkedIn and Twitter who have gone into that space, right? They're helping be coaches and mentors and giving people that type of stuff. I tend to think that the company should be doing it. Cory.
So I hate to jump in before Richard has a chance to speak. but I'm going to.
Cory, you do that about every week. You raise your hand before
Because
somebody gets.
I think Eva's right that it'd be great if the companies invested in us and helped us grow and helped us do all these other things. As much as that would be good, there's nothing that stops us from doing it ourselves. There's nothing that stops us from buying a book, reading an article, watching a video, listening to a podcast. Most of those best options to help you get better yourself are going to be either cheap or free. Very few options are expensive and require company type approval. Tools are probably the most expensive thing that we could invest in for some undetermined amount of return. The next thing would probably be these, and Grant's going to wince when I say this, these online courses that cost thousands of dollars and require you to go through this stuff that you probably already know or you could read about in a book. But why it's amazing to me why people don't think books are a good source of learning for things, especially books that are years old and still have really good information that you can learn from and take as an investment for yourself.
Yeah, I understand that because I have a stack of product books. I read Inspired and Empowered before I even became a product manager, and I was surprised by how many product people didn't read that book. And I would get looks like, why are you reading Empowered? You're not even a product leader. You're not even a product manager. And I'm like, I want to know how leaders think, how they hire, so I know what to do. I think for me, the expenses when you are looking for that coach or that mentor, or like Reforge, for example, that's like $1,000, or coaching and mentoring has costed a few $100s a month. So those are the type of things, like, companies don't offer that mentoring, but yet when you're hired as a non-senior or principal product manager, they expect you to just kind of get up to speed automatically without any mentoring. And I think that's kind of a fairy tale.
So part of my job as a product leader was to be a mentor and coach to my team. And I think maybe part of the problem is we're hiring people or promoting people who don't have those skills, or we're not training them for those skills. I actually, I believe it was iSIMS. I had interviewed Colin Day, the founder, and they actually did training to train managers and employees on how to do effective one-on-ones. And so investing maybe in how do you coach the coach, how do you help the coach become a better coach and help them do what they need to do, maybe something we need to be thinking about. Cory, to your point on books, hey, our arbitrage for Steve and I is that we read all the books and we process all of it and we figure out how to make it applicable, right? I need people to not read books. I'm joking. They should be reading books, but you can't go from not being a product manager to being a product manager just by reading books. You need to have the experience. You need to be able to do it. There was Emily Patterson, who was on our diversity call, had a post saying somebody put, hey, the 10 books you need to read if you want to be a product manager. And she had some issues with it because you can't just become a product manager by reading books. And I will be honest, if I were to put my 10 top product books together, I don't know how many of them would be product books, right? It's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's Decisive. It's Playing to Win. It's Innovation Entrepreneurship from Drucker. Because in a way, product management is sort of this business strategic marketing role, at least in the business role we talk about it. It's not just about, Empowered was a great book. I liked it. I liked Escaping the Build Trap. Christina Wacke's Radical Focus. That probably would be closer to a product management one. There are some great ones out there. But this goes back to the business case for investing. If that business case is, hey, Eva, here's 10 books you should go read, go buy them yourself and read them. Now, make sure you expense those as work expenses on your taxes, but that's not the business case we're talking about, right? I think we're talking about the organization making that investment. And with that said, Richard, what's your take on this?
So it really depends on where the company is in their growth cycle, right? If you're talking a younger, immature company, right, your needs are very different than if you're, right, been in the industry and are the leader in that industry for 30 years. Right, if you're that behemoth, right, your focus should be on innovation because you want your competitors chasing you. You don't want to be seen as chasing your competitors, because once that happens, you're no longer the leader in the industry.
Yeah.
When you're that upstart, right, you're trying to do everything the behemoth does, but you want to do it better and have that little differentiator within there. So you're just trying to find that niche that helps you, grow and start capturing some of that market share.
Completely and totally understand. And I think we see stuff where we see companies investing. I and maybe I need to do this. I've been thinking about doing a maturity cycle, right? It's like there's this, somebody's doing product management, but we don't have product management. And the investment there may be, how do we start building a product management function? Now, as you start scaling and growing, you need some consistency. Now it's not just one product manager, it's 3, it's 5. And there's where getting consistency of language, consistency of process becomes more effective, because now you need to scale. And the inefficiency of product management, if it's being done differently or redundantly, impacts the rest of the organization. At some point, then you need to scale. So you start needing those tools and stuff to make it even more, remove the friction. But what we've seen is sort of back to May's, if you don't invest in the product, eventually it's going to go, if you don't invest in your product organization, eventually it's going to get immature again. When it gets mature, it's not kept up with the practices, it's not kept up with doing it. New people have been hired and you lose it again. And we see people having to reinvent product management at a different level. So I think, Richard, there's a great point. And now I'm going to have to write that blog post about sort of the maturity.
Yeah, it's actually the first thing I had to do at my last job is reinvent product management, because right, they'd been in business almost 70 years and their product team was either the CEO or the salespeople. And it got to the point where, right, the upstarts were passing them.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a product team except for technical salespeople. So the first thing I did is like, let's hire 4 product managers, people who actually understand the industry and are willing to go out there and talk to the customers and figure out what problems the customers need next.
Yeah, this is the place where Steve would tell his story about the one company he worked with where the CEO didn't see the value of product management and fired all the product managers. And then 6 months later, realized the mistake they made and tried to rehire them, but they said no, right? And sometimes you go through the cycle, especially if you're not thinking about that next curve, that next product, that next market, right? You may not need product management as much, right? I was on a call with a private equity portfolio. It was their tech summit yesterday. And somebody said, gosh, we're spending, over 80% of our sprints on technical debt and maintenance and bugs and stuff like that. We're not spending any money on new features. I said, where's your product in its life cycle? Oh, it's very mature, totally penetrated market. I said, then that's what you should be spending it on, right? Take those cycles you would want to be spending on new features and use those to find the next problem to solve, the next market to go into, or how do you refactor, your next gen product. But just like with a product, I think our organizations are the same way. And maybe it's a realization that we need to treat our careers as a product, and we need to treat our product organizations as a product. And that's, May, goes back to your product ops comment from earlier. Any last thoughts on sort of making the business case before we get to our live poll?
Yes. Lately I've been spending a lot of time like looking at the product world right now. And despite all the layoffs, there's a lot of people who are increasingly unhappy with what they see as their jobs as product managers. So one of the things that I've been looking, like, just, I ask questions. And it's almost always because what they are doing is not product management, or their product management discipline at their organization is not defined, or is not well defined enough so other people understand what product management really means. So I feel like it's, when we talk about investing in product management, like when you invest in something, it's almost always investing in an idea or a vision or a strategy, right? Or all of them, all the above. And as the person leading product management wherever you are, or like the product discipline wherever you are, it's really important to go and define that, right? So I
Mhm.
think it's important to think about, what are you doing? What is your product management team doing? Are they happy? If you don't have a team, you don't have product managers, you don't have product management. If everyone's looking to leave, even despite the economic factors out there, like, what is it saying about your organization?
I
Product
would say,
product managers don't want to be Jira jockeys or project managers. We want to do the job. Thank you. We'd like to do the job. We're dying to do the job at a place that will allow us to do that. So that's I want that on a t-shirt, as I just want to do the job. As defined by, what we all think of it. Richard's point, I think, was a really good one, though, which is it depends on where you're at in your cycle, because your product may be reached the pinnacle. It's, market penetration, and you got all kinds of users, and you're just keeping the train running. There's not really much space for innovation. You can reduce costs a little bit. Maybe you can get some new users, but at a certain point, you can't get any bigger. You can't grow anymore because you've reached max saturation in your market, or you've reached max saturation with your target customers or whatever.
or
But
market share, or
yeah,
whatever it may be, right?
yeah,
And I think, this keeps coming back to me. Maybe the first thing we need to do to even a preface to figuring out how to make the business case for the strategic investment in product management is really start putting a stake in the ground about redefining what product management is and should be, right? It's not product owner. It's not being the Jira jockey. It's not being the project manager. It's a business and strategic role, and we need to start fighting for that. Teresa Torres was actually the speaker at the summit, was the keynote at the summit I was at yesterday. And she has some great things, but every time people come back, people take the second word off of product and talk about product generically when they talk about the trio or the squad or whatever it is. It's product management, product design, product development. Yet people hear people talk product about all three of those things. And I think there's a confusion about where product management is and should be, and who do we service. And if truly product management is a equal part of that trio, and I think it is, we need to be defining product management as itself, product design as itself, product development as itself, and talk about how they move together. And sometimes I think the dropping of management off of product just to be generic product and everything is something that's also, along with the agile and product owner, it's pulling everything. This morning I was walking the dogs, and I'm like, do we really need to talk about renaming it sort of the strategic marketing and business side of it? Because that's what it used to be under Drucker, was strategic marketing. If you go back to the old GEs and the big companies back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, it was strategic marketing is what they called them. A lot of industrial companies call it that. I feel like we still, maybe some of the investment needs to be in helping make sure we define that properly so people get it. We talk to product managers all the time, and we've done it. Even there's the emotional stress that's happening there, right? There is a high people get when they've launched something successful that they've been working on that they can do, but the day-to-day, it's not great. People aren't happy on a regular basis. More people than not I talk to are looking for that place where they can truly do it the way they want to do it. And Cory, I hear that from you all the time, right? Find that place where it's empowered, where we can push decisions down and enable that to happen. And it's hard to find that right now. And I would suggest, okay, I'm gonna channel my inner Eva and be a little provocative here. I suggest that maybe looking at these FANG unicorns as the source for what does it mean to be good product management is not the right way to do it, because none of them are empowered organizations. None of them are driving decisions down. All of them have white men mostly at the top making decisions, pushing them down, and everybody else is just a delivery arm, not a empowered problem solver, market understander, whatever it may be. And I think that we have glorified these Silicon Valley companies that 1 in 10 fail, and that's not sustainable for what we're doing. And how do we? I feel like one of the ways we have to overcome this is by almost. I don't want to kill the myth of the unicorn and the FANGs and that they're all being companies, but at least bring them a little back down to earth and to realize that product management at IBM or Thomson Reuters or many of these B2B software and information companies I have that are 50, 100, 250, 500 billion dollars is totally different than it is at these unicorns in Silicon Valley or VC funded unicorns, no matter where they may be. Is that a little too provocative?
No. It actually ties into a lot of what I hear, right? So everyone comes to me, they're like, right, are you worried about the job market? You know, looking for work with all these product people from the FANG companies being laid off and you're competing against them? And my answer is always no. How many of those people can talk about the financial impact they had on Apple? They can't. You can't quantify that minuscule amount that they had on Apple, right? Where me at a company of 1,300 people, I know almost the exact dollar amount that my department funneled through the engineering room.
Yeah. Right? But that goes back to the business aspect of it, the business acumen. And too often what people call product management in those FANG, unicorn, Silicon Valley darlings is really product ownership or technical product management. It's the Jira jockeys and that type of stuff. Cory, you've been giving me different faces.
I really don't know. There are things, part of me, the most basic thing I can say is, are you making good products or not? Are you making useful products that people care about and they choose to use versus somebody else? So the IBMs, the Facebooks, the Googles, the startups, the Pockets, the Readwises, all these different companies. I don't care how they're doing product management. Really, I don't care if they're 6 deep hierarchies with 7 VPs and whatever. Part of me says it doesn't matter if they're not producing good products and the customers don't love using them and they're not making a business out of that, then they're doing it wrong. I don't care how they're doing it.
I completely get that. And you sort of pulled out those two things that I like to look at: the value for the customers get the value, do they keep using it and want to use it, and the value to the business. And I think those are two things that we need to think about. And I'm not sure how much, I don't know, maybe I've pushed this a little more further.
How you're organized and how you're structured and who's got what titles and which structure, framework, deployment cycle. I mean, you can be successful with all of them or none of them. You can take the same things that work at IBM and they won't work at Google, or vice versa.
Any company, I would say.
Different cultures have different product cultures and different organization cultures and everything else. And some of them work, some of them don't work. Some of them you want to work in, some of them you don't want to work in. Yeah. And that's fine. You should be able to choose. Again, you change your company or you change your company. So, and you get to do the job, or you find somewhere where you can do the job. And if you are happy slinging Jira tickets around all day, and that's what, pays the bills, I can't fault anybody for doing that. I don't think it's the right thing to do for me. I hate doing that. And I go find something else.
And every company needs people who can do some of those roles, but they also need people who can do the more strategic and business role to make sure we're doing the right things and where we're going to go. I'm going to use that as a chance to switch to our poll. We're doing our live poll. I just put my Mentimeter in the link in there. The question I want to ask is, where should product leaders start to make the case for more investment in product management? Because of the cross-functional leadership they have going on. And it always happens. I got to remember that it changes as soon as somebody votes, focusing on the organization on the right things. What are my other choices? Anybody remember?
Value of market insight and data and the context to enable other functions.
Yes, those are our 4. Thank you, May, for your help.
Didn't you write this?
Yeah, but I normally have it to read off of it. I was reading the Mentimeter screen, and it has the answers there until the first vote comes in, and it only shows the answers that people voted on. So we got one last. I guess I'm the last vote. I didn't even vote. So we've got 3 answers. Focusing the organization on the right things got 2. I actually just put this, I scheduled this poll to go into the community during this call. So it's there now. It'll be interesting to see where people come out. Who are the 2 people who said focusing the organization on the right things? Cory and Richard. Richard, talk to me about that. I mean, it just goes back to what your answer was, doesn't it?
It does, right? If you're not delivering what the customer needs when they need it, no one's buying it.
I completely agree. And any added words to that, Cory, or you're nodding your head? You're like, yep.
It's one of these things where if everybody doesn't share the same goals and focus and alignments and things like that, everybody's going to be running around in different directions, and that's no good.
Yeah, I completely agree. Which takes me to the cross-functional leadership of product management. Who was the okay?
So I was kind of torn between that first answer, focusing organization, and cross-functional leadership. So I think that focus is important and success is important. And yes, that will get you the investment. But oftentimes product management, nobody knows what product management does. And
Back to what we started with. Maybe we need to do a better job of defining that.
yes, and also like because we end up being the face a lot of the time, but like never the recipient of the congratulations or the success, because it's like, oh, you shipped something, congratulations engineering team, wow, this looks really good, congratulations UX team. We rarely celebrate, like product success is celebrated with everyone else, but when do you celebrate product management?
We
right?
sold, we hit our revenue targets, congratulations sales. Right? We
Right?
hit our profitability targets, congratulations finance. Wait, no, they don't do that.
But I think it's really important to think about, like, make sure people know what product management is. Like we end up being the face of failure half the time. But also like it's I don't know. I feel like it's important that people know.
No, I think it's a key role we play, and we talked about the orchestra conductor in our courses, and I think that it resonates that we need to help. We are the one group that actually goes across all aspects of upstream and downstream to make this happen, and we need to be there. Eva, that means you voted for value of market insight and data.
Yeah, and this is based on, I know I had said invest in your people, but my second part of my answer definitely is data. Last weekend I gave a 6-minute and 15-second speech on the importance of product analytics, and me minoring in data analytics right now for my degree. I find it so important, and I got into a little argument with a product director.
Not you.
Well, with the product director on Twitter, because he had said off the bat that he would hire as a bonus someone that knew how to code and design as a product manager. And I was like, WTF, no. I was like, I would think a bonus would be someone who knows how to use data. And I'm not, well, I'm not saying like being a DBA or knowing how to do a join or a complex SQL query, but someone that knows how to look at those insights and knows how to kind of get their answers from the data and insights, because that makes your job less difficult.
Knowing how to do a pivot table in Excel may be even but I get that. And actually, Cory, this is as close as I came to all the above. I almost put all the above on this one, because the reality is you need the value of market insights and data to focus the organization on the right thing, to provide context to the other functions, to enable you to be a cross-functional leader. And so here's one, and maybe I'm just evolving with my old age as to realizing that all these things sort of build upon each other.
So, and that's why I appreciate some of the poll questions that you ask, Grant, because usually you say with what is the most, and there is usually something in that list that is the most. They're all good answers most of the time.
Yeah.
There's a few,
I had to rewrite this to put start, right? I almost said,
okay. And so that's a good example, right? If you have to start, there's a gun to your head, you have to start somewhere. Where do you start? Which one of these three do you start? You don't start with all four, because you're going to fail, because you're trying to chase 4 rabbits and you're not going to catch any of them.
Well, so then I may pivot on this and say, actually, where I might start is on the context to enable other functions, because that's going to be your shortest time to victory. The better job we do with context, But yes, you're going to say, but you don't, how do you have that context if you don't do the value of market insight and data?
So I'll give you a good example. This week, I've spent a good amount of time writing a North Star metric for one of the companies that I'm working with. What's the thing that we care most about as a company that we want folks doing in our application, in our product? And I've tried to think about that, because if we can get that out there, if we can get there and get the company aligned and focused on, this is the most important thing that we're doing, that we're measuring to see how we're doing it. If everybody understands it, if all the people in the company are saying, yes, that's where we're headed, and yes, those are the things we're doing, or we're going to change what we're doing in order to make that happen. And by the way, this is a good thing. This is not a superficial vanity metric or something like that. This is the value of the product. This is where people are getting. That's our North Star metric. That's what we're driving towards. That's what everybody is focused.
You're a North Star metric that's actually the customer market value and not our own internal metrics. Wow.
Who knew?
Sorry. Tongue in cheek there. No, yeah, and start is a key thing. And I think we can debate where the right place is, but someplace you have to start. Maybe this, goes back to how do we redefine product management? If we can identify where to start, what the actions we need to do to take to show people that, right, that may give us the business case of how do we do it. And so my next question is, oh wait, I need to go back to the PowerPoint, not to the, I had it all set up to look brilliant and pretty when I did that transition, and then I messed it up. Where does investment in product management deliver value, right? Where in the organization do we see value from an investment in product management?
Your results.
Sustainable product growth.
Well, no, not necessarily. It's more like the results of what you deliver, right? Like the incremental change in your product that drives business results. And because that's really what product management is about. It's about changing your product or creating a new product and evolving that with whatever the market needs. So where you get value is the business results, right?
So you
Like
do a
that's-
better job of that. You deliver more value to Cory's North Star metric, because we better understand what the customer values and what their under or unmet problems are, and we can now solve them for them and create more value, which creates more value for our company.
Yeah.
Okay. Eva.
I think going along with what May was saying, obviously the results, but I guess if I wanted to take that one step further, I would say just looking at the data and ensuring that there's a higher adoption after the investment than before the investment.
Yeah, so we can produce better results, better retention rate, better usage and engagement, whatever those indicators are that lead to the results we want to get. Awesome. Richard.
My answer is very hardware skewed on this one, because that's the world that I just came in. And for me, it's your ability to lock your competitors out of a market.
Because you know the market better and you can get them on your platform. I'll use the word platform to sort of.
Correct. Because once they're on your platform, you're delivering value that if they try and go with a competitor, right, they basically need to scrap it all, and they're not going to.
Awesome. I love that. Cory.
I am struggling.
Can I say something, Cory? I wrote this question thinking we're going to say, oh, it's going to make development more efficient. Oh, it's going to help sales be better. And I love how everybody's taking it to the more strategic and the more business results.
I mean,
so
the answer is yes, it does all those things. Which one is the more impactful of that? I could give you the answer that I've worked on this week, which is we get software out faster. I could give the answer of
that's where my head was when I wrote this.
Yeah,
but
I
love the extending it.
I love Richard's answer of customers recognize the value and pay us more money. That seems to be a good thing. The value of the company increases. Look at all these companies that have these hockey stick growth patterns when they find that fit, or customers go, hey, you ought to try this. I mean, what's the chat GTP thing that's just going nuts right
It's
now with these
blowing up.
AI
Yeah.
things?
I
That's
haven't tried it
insane.
yet.
It took them
Yeah.
5 days to get 1 million users or something like that. Insane like that. It's the fastest growth pattern anybody's seen. And it's free. But I think it's
For
free.
now.
For now, yeah, but see, that's the thing. They're building in that value proposition. People are starting to recognize it. Yeah, they're recognizing flaws, but they're also seeing the potential in it, and they're willing to say, "I will invest either my time, my money, or my attention with this and give it more." So part of me says the value from product management is you get more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff.
And right, they're letting people use it for free because we are QA. We're user acceptance testing, so they don't have to.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And you know, I think it's interesting to look at that way. You know, for me, I always say sustainable product growth is the ultimate goal, and that's what we should be driving to. I think that our investment in product management should deliver that value. I also had a conversation with the head of engineering at one of our client companies, and he was asking me questions about the efficiency of his teams and his processes. And I said, I'll be honest, you will gain more efficiency in your teams by product management and product strategy, focusing them on the right things. If the failure rate is 76%, and I've got data from Clayton Christian that says that, I've seen 90%, I've seen mostly over 50% in anybody who talks about it. If your product initiatives fail more than half the time, if we can just change that to failing only a third of the time, we've just done a 50% or 100% improvement, right? If it was, say we go a third. If they're failing 2/3 of the time and we can make them fail 1/3 of the time, we just did an unbelievable impact in improving the efficiency of the organization. So it goes back to that poll question. I think it is in doing the right things and the impact that can bring. So
here's an interesting thing to think about. If we do that, and I love that approach, and I think that's the right type of things to be talking about. So there's, 2/3 of the initiatives that we built in the last 5 years failed. We want to change that to be a third failure rate, right? That is a long, slow burn versus, hey, we got this brand new contract for $1 million. If we build this thing, it'll happen. There is a leadership and organizational culture aspect of this that you have to have the group that values, and you have to be able to show that this is more money doing the reducing failed initiatives by half than one deal worth $1 million. It's interesting to see in your organization or the ones you're talking to, which is more valuable. No, completely and totally. So great conversation. We're gonna hit this one quickly before we get to the lightning round. This is me writing bad questions. Where can product leaders get the most impact from the investment in product management? We talked really about where's the value that we see. This is like, what type of investment could we make? An investment in more market engagement, an investment in training and education, investment in tools. Where can a product leader get the most impact from their investment? If we've got limited resources to invest, or product ops, I would say would be another option. Cory. More thinking options. Just this notion of thinking about all the things that go into your product, the system level thinking. Those are the things I would think it would be the biggest impact, no matter which tools, methods, or anything else that you use. More thinking options, more options to think about, and more strategic thinking, more places to get people thinking about things. Awesome. And then we should talk about this offline, Cory, but one of the things we tried to build into our product strategy course is that there's strategic thinking in the course. We giving devices and ability for help people start thinking about stuff that hopefully can get into that. I love that answer because now it's really resonating with how we built the course. May.
I think it's about access, right? So when you're spending money, it's probably on something that's missing. And if you're buying a tool, it's because there's missing alignment, or if you're buying an analytics tool, there's missing data or access to data. But it's, at the end of the day, it's about empowering your team to know the market better, and so therefore build better products. And it's not just your team, it's your team and beyond, because now UX has access to that data and that knowledge, and Eng has that access to data and knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. So it's empowerment.
it's really a inflection point. If we can make that happen there, we can leverage that. It goes back to that leverage term, that we talked about earlier. Awesome. Eva.
I would say invest in diverse talent so you can bring different perspectives into your product, especially accessibility for people that might have disabilities. I know accessibility isn't a sexy topic, but that's something that I'm currently working on now to make the product more accessible.
Did anybody see the new Apple ad with their accessibility features and how their the iPhone and their ecosystem can, oh my God, I'll have to find that and put it into the community. Blew me, I mean, tears in my eyes. What an amazing job. And I think that, I love that. And it doesn't surprise me that that was your answer. I think you're very good at carrying that flag, right? The banner in going for it, and very, very much needed. Richard.
My answer, I doubt it's even in the right direction, but it's transparency. It's finding ways to make sure that the decisions that are being made in product management are visible throughout the company to get alignment.
I love that answer, because if we can provide transparency and provide strategy and guidance, we can achieve that, pushing, empowering people to make decisions because they understand how it goes and where it goes. Wow. Richard wins this week. I think he gets the most points. That killed it.
7 job interviews this week will have me really focused.
You know how to communicate that. Where am I going to make the impact? That's awesome. Our lightning round. What is possible with a proper investment in product management? Richard.
Growth.
Eva.
Empowerment.
Growth, empowerment. Cory.
World-changing products.
Growth, empowerment, world-changing products. May.
I'm going to end with a slightly negative note here. There is a caveat to investment, which is you can't just invest in product management. It needs to be equal investments in engineering and UX, because just growing product management is not enough. So, but when you invest in the product and the teams that build the product, anything is possible.
Anything is possible. Actually, I would say that from what I've seen, there's more of an investment in engineering than in product management, but there's more of an investment in product management than there is in product design. I think product design is probably the most underfunded, both resource-wise and otherwise. So I understand what you're saying, and I get it. This was about the case for product management, but I guess part of it is we have to do everything. We need to bring all the parts together because we can't rely on just sales or just technology, which we've done in many companies in the past. We need to bring this all together. I think it's what's possible is winning together. I'll do the yes and on that, right? We do this in collaboration and we win as an organization because we are a team and we can't do it by ourselves. Guys, thanks for this conversation. I really enjoyed sort of going down and talking about different things and seeing how we can make the better case for product management as a whole. Maybe we need to make the case for product management, the role, as well as making the case for the investment in product management in product holistically, to May's point, as we're doing it. My mind is percolating with things on transparency and empowerment in maturity cycles and where we're going, which every week you guys do this. You make me think, you challenge my views, you make me go different places, and I appreciate that. And we do this every week. Monday, the question goes in. Sometime after Monday, I get around to doing a poll. And on Fridays, we have these amazing calls where I learn, I grow, I make friends, and I appreciate every one of you. So Richard, Eva, Cory, May, thank you so much for this. We'll see you guys next week in the community. Take care. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.